So I suppose the way that this is supposed to start is with some anecdote about me making and presumably eating mud pies as a kid. So here goes. Well, actually, as it turns out, it's not quite that direct. Growing up, food was very important in my family. The primary topic of conversation at any meal was, of course, what we're having for the next meal, right? Excuse me. The highest form of care that you could show someone would be maybe to make them their favorite food, right? And then the highest compliment you could pay someone was to say, thank you so much for what you've made. It was wonderful. We didn't eat fancy food, not by a long shot. My favorite Saturday morning breakfast was, and might still be, a fried Spam, egg, and cheese sandwich on white bread with Tabasco sauce and mayonnaise. Not exactly health food. In the summer, dinner was generally butter beans, corn on the cob, and tomatoes, because that's what we grew in the garden. Dessert might be zucchini bread, because, well, zucchini, if you've grown them, you know. In the winter, we ate a lot of Brunswick stew, which I guess is a southern thing. You might not all know what that is, but the important point is that we always had saltines with a thick smear of butter with our Brunswick stew, and that was kind of the best part. We had breakfast for dinner a lot of times. I remember one time I was probably 10 or 12 years old, and my dad made scrambled eggs for dinner one night, and he put Velveeta cheese and chopped fresh parsley on top, and I thought we were eating at the Ritz, right? And I only knew that Ritz was fancy because that was the kind of crackers that we served guests instead of saltines. So we didn't eat fancy, but we came together we came together to eat, and we got excited about it. And to this day, when my brother and I reminisce about growing up, often it involves food. And he's a real honest to goodness chef right now. He's probably forgotten more about cooking than I'll ever know. Growing up in Virginia Beach, there were some things we ate because they were ubiquitous when they were in season, but that might seem kind of fancy now. Raw oysters, rockfish, soft-shell crabs. You all know what soft-shell crabs are? These are crabs that blue crabs after they've molted, and before they get a new shell, you can eat the whole thing, right? You don't have to pick it. You eat the entire crab. And so you clean it a little bit, you batter it, you fry it, put it between two slices of white bread with some tartar sauce and slice of tomato. And sweet, merciful crap, is it good? There might not be much better. When I went away to college, I decided to study physics because it sounded hard. And it was. And I wasn't very good at it. So I graduated with a pretty subpar GPA and few, if any, marketable skills, and ended up cooking in a restaurant. I loved it, but it was hard. The schedule, the work, the conditions, the acute periods of intense stress, the extracurriculars. But, you know, there's no imposter syndrome in the kitchen. You make things and people really like it, or they don't, but you always know where you stand, right? I learned more cooking for a few years in a restaurant, or learned more about cooking in a few years in a restaurant than I had my whole life up to that point. It's really a crash course, but ultimately I decided to be an engineer, and so now Now I cook for fun, and I do dirt for a living, right? I love the equipment parallels between the kitchen and the soils lab. You've seen a couple already, right? Sieves. We design soil gradation in so many of our applications, right? In the kitchen, maybe you've got a pepper mill and you grind pepper, but when you grind pepper, you get all different, it's a well-graded pepper, right? You get all different sizes of peppercorn. And I might not want all different sizes of peppercorn. Sometimes I want big pieces, and sometimes I want small, and sometimes I want in between, but I have sieves, right? What about scales? I can't think of a single standard geotechnical test that doesn't require a scale. Do you bake? Baking's hard, right? Buy a scale that's accurate to 1/10 of a gram, it'll make it a lot easier. Stand mixers, right? Now granted, the ones in our lab are probably more the size of a commercial kitchen, but many of us still have stand mixers at home too. What I don't have is a milkshake machine, which I've never actually used to make a milkshake anyway, but I've run a lot of hydrometer tests, right? In general, the science of cooking appeals to me. At home, we eat mostly simple food, right? But I love a good kitchen experiment. Fermentation, right? The things that happen when salt and lactic acid bacteria are given time to do their magic is remarkable, and not something that is reproducible by any other means. Fermenting vegetables is easy. Meat is harder. Dry cured sausages, hams, guanciale, that's about a 50-50 proposition for me, meaning I throw about half of it away. I like the way that we can manipulate science to make things better. Boiling potatoes in a concentrated salt solution. You get enough salt into the water, it increases the boiling point. So when you cook the potatoes in it, you get complete gelatinization of the starches. Why do you care? It's the creamiest potatoes you've ever eaten, I guarantee it. They're amazing. Starch gelatinization also comes up in baking. When I make bagels, I pre-gelatinize some of my flour, some of the starches in my flour, by making what's called a U-cone. I cook cook flour and water in a skillet until it becomes a paste. And then that goes into the dough, and you make your bagel dough as one normally would. It extends the shelf life of your bagels. You get 2-3 days out of them for sure. You'll still have to toast them a little bit on the second day, but they hold up much better. Another piece of magic, or a couple more pieces of magic for bagels, are diastatic malt powder and vital wheat gluten. Vital wheat gluten will give you a much better chew. Diastatic malt powder feeds the yeast, so you get complete fermentation, better oven spring, better coloring. I don't claim to make great bagels, but I make bagels better than the grocery store does. There are all sorts of chemicals that you can use to manipulate food and flavor. One that I like a lot is transglutaminase. It's a naturally occurring enzyme that is sometimes colloquially referred to as meat glue, because you can glue proteins together. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to take a piece of chicken and glue it to a piece of salmon and cook it as a single protein? Because if you had, you're a monster. But you also have the ability to find that out. You can make noodles out of shrimp, right? No flour, nothing, just pure protein noodles, right? You can replace chicken skin with bacon, right? It's a magical ingredient. Another wonderful kitchen chemical is sodium citrate. It's an emulsifying salt, right? So you can use it to make any cheese melt like American cheese. You're grilling burgers for dinner, make your own cheese slices. Fantastic. What's the best macaroni and cheese in the world? It's mine. Made with a semi-emulsified mix of cheddar, Gruyere, Munster, and provolone. 1 pound of macaroni gets 2.5 pounds of cheese. Another piece of kitchen alchemy that I think you've seen up here is invert sugar. It's got a 180-degree optical rotation from sucrose. I don't really know what that means, but that's why it's called invert sugar. And you make it from sucrose, you make it from table sugar by boiling it in the presence of a little bit of acid. Right? And so what you're left with when you're done is a 50-50 mix of fructose and glucose. Right? Why this matters is because you've changed the properties of your sweetener. You put it in ice cream, it depresses the freezing point of water so that when you eat your ice cream, there's more of a liquid matrix than a solid matrix. Now it's still firm like ice cream, but you get less crystallization and way better texture. Very soft cookies with invert sugar too. I also love MSG. Gets kind of a bad rap, I think, but it's a naturally occurring salt, and it's fantastic what it does to the flavor of food. We call it kitchen crack in my house. The bottom line, though, I guess, is that we all have to eat, right? Some of us eat more than others. But feeding ourselves is something we can embrace. It's self-care. If you're having a salad for lunch, take care in that salad. Wash the lettuce in cold water. Dry it well. Cut the other vegetables into sizes and shapes that you want to eat, right? Add something cool to it. Hard-boiled eggs, candied nuts, crumbly cheese, maybe some croutons, right? Make it enjoyable. Embrace foods that are in season. In July, eat tomato sandwiches with salt and pepper and probably more mayonnaise than you should, but maybe the best sandwich in the world. In the winter, eat roasted squash with hot sauce and good olive oil. In the spring, embrace things like fiddlehead ferns and ramps and morels and asparagus and sugar snap peas. Geotechnical engineering is hard work. Long days, difficult assignments, tight deadlines. We all work hard. But eating good food tells your soul that you love it, right? Sit down, put your phone away, eat the best grilled cheese sandwich you can possibly make. Appreciate it, love yourself, right? Thank you.